Ian here from As Is, and today we'll be talking about Playlist Supply, which is a helpful tool that allows you to find new playlists to pitch your songs to. We'll be going over in detail with a few different search results, and then at the end, I'll give you some of my thoughts and feedback on this service. So let's get to it. Let's jump into the interface now of Playlist Supply. And as you can see here, you have a keyword option, you have criteria, which you can filter by nothing, social, so with like if they have a social media link, email, Instagram, Twitter, similar artists, and emails. There's dark mode, but that only covers a certain part of the screen, not the whole thing. And then down here, you can see that you can filter the playlist by name, the amount of followers, tracks in the playlist, total popularity, which is the popularity score that Spotify gives each track in the playlist, which is helpful. Because if you have a playlist that has, average track score of 50, then they're probably not going to put on small independent artist track. And vice versa, if you have a playlist that only has, an average popularity score of 4 or 5, most likely then they're probably not going to put on somebody who's a little bit more established of an indie artist. Last modified, which is helpful to know if the playlist is active. And then the stuff you can search by in this field here. Let's try a pretty broad search to start with. I'm going to go with dubstep, which is a pretty big genre and relevant to stuff that we do. And what happens is you can see that's kind of scanning. There you go. It starts filling out this list, and you can see that it just keeps going and going and going. It starts with 16 entries, but it just keeps populating over time. So I think generally the best way to do this is kind of have it run and then just let it populate for a while. As you can see though here, as it's still populating, but a lot of this stuff we don't have many options for contact information. And that's when we can search by criteria. Now I want to show you kind of one of the issues with this site. If we search a term, experimental bass, which is a pretty common used term and phrase, and dubstep that's not like rhythm or in that kind of more popular genre, some more like deep dubstep, space bass kind of stuff. That experimental bass is a common used term. So the issue with some of this that you'll see here is you'll see like you get stuff like EDM.com top hits. Now, granted, maybe experimental bass isn't the best kind of search term to put in there, but it's something common in this subgenre that you would use. So stuff like this, it's best to use that exact search option. So let's try that now and see if we kind of get a better result here. So you can see now after it's populated a little bit, it's done a little bit better of a job with that exact search. But I would say that some of this isn't great from a results standpoint. We're still getting EDM.com top hits, which even in the playlist name doesn't say anything about experimental bass. We actually get EDM.com's playlist in here a couple times, which doesn't have anything with experimental in the name. So for more niche searches, this might not be the best tool. Let's try this similar artist feature now. So I'm going to go with an artist that both Aaron and I love, Illenium, and an artist that's quite big, obviously. So according to Playlist Supply, we should be able to find similar artists in the style of Illenium and playlists that feature them. I find this kind of hard to grasp, but maybe they pull every playlist or playlist that mentions Illenium in there. So let's see. So this is still populating after a few minutes. And this is one of the downsides to this website. But that just goes to show you how much data and information can be combed with a bigger, kind of broader search term, like Illenium, than something like space bass or experimental bass. I think this is one of the coolest features about this web page, that if you have a song that's super similar to the style of music, like say Illenium or another big artist that's easy to search on here, that's on a lot of playlists and is pretty well acclaimed, you can search through this website and find who is adding their music to their playlists. For instance, I found one that didn't have, Illenium in the title or in the description. Some of these you'll see here, 100% Future Bass Martin Garrix, Illenium is in the title. So that was my first impression, that maybe they would go by name of playlist or description kind of which you can do with like nothing or other functions here, kind of just like a quick search. But by clicking similar artists, I was able to find like this playlist, for instance. It was Freshly Squeezed is what it's called. Doesn't have anything to say Illenium in the description at all, as you can see. Fresh, hoppy, citrusy, goodness. But an Illenium track is in here. It's the 4th track. I didn't comb through all of it, but I'd imagine that there's more Illenium. So what this is able to do for us, it's able to find where somebody like that is placed. Now I want to try one more search with this, with a little bit smaller of an artist. I mean, in grand scheme of things, Liquid Stranger is huge, but slightly more niche, right, than Illenium, than Liquid Stranger, who is clearly well known in the dubstep sphere. But let's see if we can get the amount of results, or even close to it, and the quality that we did with Illenium. So I'll run the exact same test kind of here and just let it run through and find some Liquid Stranger options. So interestingly enough, with Liquid Stranger, you can kind of watch the playlist pop in. And a bunch of them I saw were Release Radar, Your Top Songs, 2016, 17, 18, 19. So I'm not quite sure if people have made playlists name that and thrown Liquid Stranger in, or if we're getting people's own personal release radars. So while that's running Liquid Stranger, I want to try somebody in that dubstep sphere that's relevant to us, but is a lot smaller, but still somebody that's fairly well known in those kind of circles. So let me try Miso and kind of see what results that gets. So while Liquid Stranger is still populating, it looks like the Illenium playlists are done populating. And I mentioned I saw a bunch of Your Top Songs 2020 and whatnot come through on Liquid Stranger's end. Well, you can see that it is in fact just people's Spotify playlists from their algorithmic generated Your Top Song 2020. So some of that data obviously isn't relevant because we can't contact those people. But you can see we had about a little over 1,200 playlists come in with Illenium. Now some of these, like I just said, are just going to be tossed out. It looks like we're looking at a couple pages even. It looks like 4 roughly out of 25 pages are just Your Top Songs. So that's unfortunate. You can't filter it out by that. But even with a couple pages out for Illenium, that still gives us a lot of options to search. So going through the Liquid Stranger results, we did get quite a few results, almost 1,300. And the same thing happened with Illenium, where we had a couple pages of those results that were Release Radar and Your Top Songs for certain years. So that's good to know with big artists in specific genres that you can find a lot of options. Now with Miso, we didn't have as much luck. We had surprisingly 361 results, but some of these are clearly not geared towards Miso, the dubstep artist, and some sort of Brazilian kind of bossa nova jazz, as you can see here. So something for that's niche like this might be harder to sort out what is good and what is not relevant. Here are my takeaways from using Playlist Supply for a little bit. I think it is a really valuable tool to search out new playlists to reach out to. It might give you some different ideas, and it's just going to give you all that data right there, as opposed to kind of going by manually through Spotify and looking where people are discovered on, or just searching through playlists. Now, on the downside, a lot of these results will yield no contact information for the playlists, similar to like how you'll find some dead ends when you're searching manually on Spotify. There's not great filtering options in the criteria when it comes to eliminating stuff like we saw, like Release Radar or Your Top Songs, or even kind of filtering out smaller following playlists, which you can do by filtering the search to show the most popular and the most high following count playlists at the top, and then work your way through. And it's also not great, at least for niche searches that we were looking into. Maybe you'll find different and better success in your niche genres. But for kind of experimental dubstep, deep dubstep, it wasn't great. Now, when it comes to the best usage of this tool, I would say that similar artist function is probably the most powerful tool. It's going to get you playlists that would be a lot harder to find just looking on your own accord. And that's pretty useful and nifty, especially if there's a big artist that you can clearly identify that your song sounds like. Now, you will still have to go reach out to these people and pitch. We've done that with some of these that we found using this tool. And like using like a manual pitching and sifting through Spotify to find these playlists, some may ask you to pay for placement. Now, just so you know, that is against Spotify's terms of service. And some of these playlists that ask you to pay for placement are either built using bought fake listeners and or bot streams. So you need to beware if you decide to participate in this practice. Generally, I would say you shouldn't. We always avoid playlist services like that. And to give you an example, one of the playlists that we contacted, they offered us a $30 placement for getting us in front of over 25,000 people on their playlist. And I looked at some of the artists that were on the playlist. One of them has been on for 2 weeks and had 250 monthly listeners. So what that tells me is either that playlist is all fake listeners or it isn't active listeners. So beware, if you do pay for placement, do your due diligence to make sure on something like Chartmetric that these followers aren't bought to the best of your ability or to the best of your knowledge, and make sure that you're going to get a good return on your investment if you decide to go that route. Asking these playlist companies if they have proof of ads or how they got their listeners or what typical numbers that their artists who are featured get, asking for screenshots from those artists' Spotify dashboards. I know this can seem like an extra step, but it helps to protect you if you do decide to go that route. I will say I think this tool is worth using and having in your tool bag. I don't know if it's something that I would pay reoccurring $20 a month, but maybe what you can do is buy it for a month or two, get some playlists, try those for a while, and then when you run dry, re-up and keep coming back to this, because I do think it is a valuable tool that will help you find some different playlists that you may overlook. That being said, there's ways to search for Spotify playlists without using a tool like this, and if you'd like to see that, let us know and we'll make a specific video based on that. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. If there's another service you'd like us to look into and review, we'd be happy to do so. If you like this video, please like and share. And if you'd like to see more content like this, please subscribe, as we'll continue to make helpful music marketing tutorials just like this. We also have a playlist over here that will have similar videos like this one to help you learn some other services that you can use to promote your music. Thanks for watching and have a great day.